Okay, so yeah, I have a couple questions prepared, but first I want to introduce you. So you're, of course, you're Budjette Tan, and I wanted to ask, like, how would you introduce yourself? Like, how would
Oh,
you introduce yourself as Budjette?
wow. Wow. Suddenly, that sounds like the toughest question.
It's like I'm hitting you hard right from the
Yeah.
beginning.
So yes, I'm. My name is Budget, and it was my parents' idea to call me Budget, but I
Mm.
don't know anything about finance. I don't know anything about budgeting. Please do not ask me anything related to that. I am. Instead of becoming really good with finance, I ended up more on the creative side. So I'm a writer, a storyteller, a creative in an ad agency, and of course, what I do after work and after my kid falls asleep is I write comic book stories.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's the night job essentially. That's awesome. And yeah, and obviously, like for those who don't know, I'm Motsi Dapul. I'm the creator of this podcast, Hi Nai. And Budget was kind enough to come over and like just talk about some stuff with us, especially because soon, very soon, Trese will be the first Filipino Netflix animated series coming out. And that's very exciting for everybody. Like, yes, and yeah. So my second question is kind of like back and forth on this one. Uh,
Sure.
it's almost like I don't want to ask it because it's a little bit like, oh, it's when do you like? So, but the question is because I want to tell the story as well. Just what is your first memory of me? And I will tell you my first memory of you, like meeting for the first time.
Wow. First memory of Motzi was at a Comic Con. It was a Comic Con, not Comiket.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
one of
right.
the two major ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And or my persistent memory of Motzi is that Motzi would always be at the table. She'd be one of the first ones there, or at least Motzi is at the table because suddenly everything just gets loud and happy. Um, so there, and Motzi has been a great supporter of not just Trese, but a whole lot of Filipino comic books and comic book artists, creators for that matter. So yeah, when Motzi left, yes, there was a gap there.
Very sad.
As far as the happiness and loudness level at Comic Cons.
That's very sweet. I do have like a very specific memory. It was the 2009 Comic Con. I think it was like I was the first time I'd ever been to a Comic Con. So that was it. Like I don't remember how I found out about Trese. Obviously, it was like kind of known a little bit. I think it was 2009. My memory might be bad, but it was the one in a mall. I forgot which mall. It was the small like little convention center like in that mall, and it was the first time I was buying like ashcan comics of like stuff like Filipino Heroes League and
Yes.
stuff like that. And I remember like you were at the table like still selling like I think it was already bound, like properly bound Trese comics. I don't think I was there for the ashcans if there were any, but yeah, and that's like my earliest memory. But obviously like over time, like we just like when I started tabling at Comic Cons, I would like see you. That's why I was always there first, because I was like at the setup and I'll be like, wait, there's
Yes,
always a big line, so I can't like kailangan ko
that's
unahan.
right.
But yeah, yeah, so that's just this is an opening because like I also wanted to bring it up because Comic Cons and Comicettes and everything are like it's such a big part of like the culture that we kind of share as like comiceros. I mean, like obviously not like the original comicero, rest God rest his soul, but yeah, like it's been great. So my next question is just because obviously everyone's like talking about the new Netflix series. And no, well, I can't ask you questions about it, obviously, like no spoilers. But what are you most excited about that's not in the show? Like once the show comes out. So like, what are you excited about in the aftermath of the show coming out that is not in the show? Like outside.
Oh, well, I hope. I mean, Um, I hope the greedy answer is I hope more people buy the comic book.
Yeah, of course. No, but that's fair.
The 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 but taking a step back, I hope that the show makes more people interested in Philippine mythology and
Mhm.
folklore.
Yeah.
Whether it is buying more books or reading up more about our folklore, to when possible, I hope more people visit our country. And I hope people who, I mean, that, Pinoys who might not normally be traveling to certain parts of the country or city would then say, hey, I want to see that part. I want to go to that street where it all happened, and then make them see, or at least see the city in a new light.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I guess that would be a nice effect of it.
That's totally fair. I've definitely heard, because I live in Canada now, but like I've definitely heard people who have said, like, and to be fair to them, it is kind of true that the traffic is insane in Manila. But like it's basically like if you go to the Philippines, they said like just go to the beaches and stuff like that. And there's not much love given to the city, which I think like it's so like it is a very full city, but it's like that's why it's so vibrant. That's why there's like so much culture like in the city, which I really love, and I appreciate it way more now that I can't go there. So yeah, the next question, just you're just kind of speeding through these questions because like there's a fun bit at the end. But
Hey,
so yeah, the next question is you always share Filipino titles and projects. Like you're always so supportive of them. I always see your Twitter and your Facebook, like you're sharing, and especially to the fans of Trese, you're showing like games and podcasts and comics and books and like show even like some shows that have been announced that showcase Filipino mythology, folklore, and like just culture. For you personally, what are you most excited about like recently that you've seen? Like a title, any title, whether it's a podcast or a game or a show or a book. Like what struck you like recently that you're really excited to see? Or even if
wow.
it hasn't come out, like even if it has come out, like you haven't read it yet or you haven't looked at it yet, what are you excited to look at?
Yeah. Well, I guess the first one that came to mind as you were like asking that question, it would be, I think, wow, I'm now blanking
That's
on the
okay. Yeah,
title.
it happens.
No, so I'm the last one of the last time I was in Manila before the lockdown. So
Hmm.
one of the Christmas gift I got was the first two volumes of Ella Arcangel.
Oh yes.
And I had seen Mervyn Malonzo is the one who normally posts about it, and of course they've done the animated feature. I mean the animated short for it, and it was my first time to read it. So a year ago or 2 years ago, um, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was a great way to talk about the what was happening in Manila, or what is still happening in Manila, as far as the politics are
Hmm.
concerned, and all of the deaths that are happening. But then again, he found a way to give it a magical spin,
Hmm.
and I really like how the story developed later on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the third volume, which came out in Manila, but I haven't gotten it yet. So yeah, I mean, and then of course I think it's fantastic that they're doing the animated shorts,
Yeah.
and they were able to crowdfund it as well.
Yeah, that's crazy to
Uh,
me, but it's like it's really awesome. Like I saw the first one and I know that they're working on the next one. It's gorgeous. And it's just yeah, and what you said, it's a lot of I've discussed this before on like other platforms. Like I've been asked to talk about like Filipino culture stuff,
yeah,
and I really appreciate how a lot of like comics, especially you and like also Marvin Malonzo and everybody, kind of relate. Filipino supernatural horror to real life horror. And that's kind of like the parasocial. That's the relationship between them. It's how we process real life trauma through monsters. And it's been like it's always been in my mind that like we kill or we beat monsters in our stories as a way to kind of transfer that anger.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's very interesting, like you mentioned that. And of course, like it is like, yeah, there's we always have those discussions about like, "But politics don't belong in comics." And we just like, you just struck that down immediately, which was really fun to see.
But you
Look at-
can't, I think you can't help it. I mean, even on the moments I have written a politician or two in Trese,
yes.
it was never a conscious effort to comment on, on society or anything like that. It just feels like because it's there. Because if
Yeah,
you're going to tell a story of Manila, those characters will come up,
exactly.
and you just can't help but cast these characters or talk about these stories. So I
Mhm.
think, yeah, especially what Julius Villanueva did in El Arcangel about the topic of the extrajudicial killings,
Mhm.
and what is it like, especially in a squatters area. So yeah, I mean, and even just to go off on a quick tangent, what Paulo Fabregas did with Filipino Heroes League.
Yes.
So the politics will come into play if you want to tell a story about living in Manila or living in the Philippines.
Exactly. It's like it's indelible, you can't avoid it. Essentially, it's part of life. So yeah, so the next question. So this is kind of like just a thought experiment. So you don't have to remember anything, which helps because like sometimes it's hard to remember things on the spot. But in this one, so you've seen a lot of like awesome projects in the making, and you've seen a lot of projects that have been made that you want to check out. But um, if you were like thinking about what have you not seen yet, it might exist, but you don't know. What have you
Wow.
not seen yet in terms of Filipino creation that you want to see? Like, and if you like mention it, and I'm like, wait, there's something. But also like, if there isn't, like, it's also an interesting thing to think about. Like, what would you like to see created in the near future?
I think what I would love to see more coming from Pinoy creators is something is more sci-fi, I guess. I think sci-fi there has been a big struggle on trying to tell sci-fi stories, whether in prose or whether it's comic books. Yes, there have been a couple of them, but I guess it would be great to see more of it.
Yeah.
Um, there have been and then there's a question of what is a Pinoy superhero really? And again, that is the first thing that usually when a comic book creator comes into the field, that's one of the first things you get out of your chest, right? You need a
Pinoy superhero.
superhero. You
They
need
have the
a Pinoy
Filipino flag in
superhero.
their suit.
He's got a flag. He's got, I don't know, tribal tattoos. He's got the ethnic wear. But
We've all.
and again, I think like what Paulo did in Filipino Heroes League is already a step. It's an interesting exploration
Yeah.
of the Pinoy hero. What Russell Molina and Ian Santamaria did in '66
Mm-hmm.
is also an interesting exploration of what is a Pinoy hero. But I guess, yeah. So I think now that we have um, just like any artist or any kid for that matter, when you start drawing or telling stories, you are essentially copying heavily, or you are heavily influenced by a lot of your favorites. So I think now that we have gotten it out of our system, essentially you just made, if you look at it, some people essentially just made the Pinoy X-Men,
Yeah.
X-Men or the Pinoy
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But and it's the third or fourth iteration, that eventually they figure out, okay, this is how we're going to tell it.
Yeah, exactly.
And when I say superhero, it might be, I use that term loosely, and they don't need to be in spandex.
Hmm.
Again, the character in 66 is it's a great superhero story without anyone wearing a costume. But essentially that's what it is. So yeah, I mean, I think the Pinoys cannot help but we are in love with Western superheroes.
Yeah.
So I think it would be great to eventually figure out what is a Pinoy superhero, and see how it could, how we continue down that path.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also when you mentioned like it doesn't have to be in spandex, you saw me like leaning out of frame for a sec because this was like actually beside me. It's so we don't know if you've seen Sagala.
Okay, you have a
Uh,
copy of that.
yeah. Well, it was like my best friend. It was so funny story. Like they sent me like a Christmas gift in 2019. And I never received it because it was with a family member, and I couldn't visit them when like lockdown hit because I hadn't like visited them before. So they had it this whole time, and I only visited them recently. So I just got the copy. But
Oh,
it's like I'm making you jealous, like. But yeah. And
tell us about Sagala. Tell us a bit about Sagala.
Sagala. Oh man. Sagala is a wonderful story by Tori Tadayar, yeah. It says here, it's a feisty gunsmith's apprentice with dreams of becoming a courtesan at the Royal Palacio. I like it. It's kind of not really steampunk. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
you'd call it. Like, almost like Spanish era punk of the
Yes,
Philippines
yes,
in
yes.
that way. It's very fun. It's very action packed. I think like it's also on Pen Lab. I know that you're on Pen Lab as well, so you can definitely check it out there. And
That looks gorgeous.
it is really
I
lovely and
I
like
want to get the yes. You're making me jealous. Now I want to think about it.
oh like you can so the creator on Twitter is Haitori, Haitori. You can like follow them there and everything. And yeah, just want to bring that up because like it's also technically a Filipino superhero, right? Like it is
Yeah,
a very unique, I mean it's very unique in terms of the landscape that we've seen already, which is
yes.
really something to be appreciated. And yeah, like and I'm gonna bring this up very briefly, even though it's not coming for a little bit. It's just you mentioned sci-fi, obviously. Like I mean, there's obviously myth space and like that. There was an old story. I don't remember what the title is anymore, but I remember it very clearly. It was the one where the Bajau were space
Sky Gypsy.
divers, sky gypsies. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was really cool. And oh, and like in terms of like Filipino superheroes, I worked on something with Hiner Pedrinia.
Yes.
Yeah. And we both collaborated on something that's coming out soon-ish. Like I'm still trying to figure out the schedule,
Right.
but it
Oh,
is like definitely also one of those superhero, but in the current day age of Filipino politics type deal. um Talking about like EGKs and policemen. So
yep. Yep.
it is
I
one of
mean,
those.
exactly. We just need to keep creating these stories, and figuring out what works or not.
Mhm.
Even for creators personally, right? So yeah, that would be great to see.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just gonna invite Reg in just so she can like take over for me. But I do have like one last question before we go on to the next portion of this call. So my last question is well, I guess I can leave this for the later for the latter half. But I guess like just as a quick aside, like what do you miss most about the Philippines right now? Because I haven't been there since like 2018 Christmas, I believe. So it's been a while. What do you miss most? Like anything that comes to mind right now?
Um, food and friends.
Food and friends, yeah, same. All the food, all the friends. It's taho, for example, just like taho every night, every
Yeah,
morning.
yeah,
It's
yes,
like and oh, I used to live near. Have you ever been to Maginhawa Street?
yes, of course.
Yeah, so it's like I live beside Maginhawa. So every day I would go walk 5 minutes and just like get whatever, like milk tea and everything. Milk tea so expensive here, so I'm just sad now.
Yeah, same here,
Yeah, and
same here.
it's like
But yeah, Maginhawa has like some of the best restaurants.
yeah, Exactly. And in the UP
So
area and not too expensive even. So it's like that's also what
exactly.
was so appealing about it. And there were no chains, like only like one or two chains like Bo's Coffee.
Right.
It's
Right.
like it's banned. Like chains are banned in Maginhawa. So that's also like really appealing. Anyway, we're welcoming Reg into this call just because of
Right.
our weird Zoom
Hi.
things. Reg is my
Hello.
co-creator and best friend for Hainai, and she
Hi.
will ask the next couple questions while I peace out for just a sec and then come back. Like,
Oh, actually, I got a notification that we have unlimited minutes now.
oh, good.
There you
It
go.
worked.
Zoom is
Woohoo!
weird. I never know what Zoom wants, but yeah, okay. But
That's true. Honestly, same.
but yeah, Reg is in the Philippines right now. I'm here in Canada and you're
Yes.
in
Look at
Denmark.
us in different countries. Yeah,
Exactly.
I actually wanted to make a joke about how it's like it's not Motsi per se I miss, but more like having an excuse to go to Maginhawa. All the time.
That's true. That's true. It's so
Yes,
sad.
Yeah.
yes,
The
Yeah,
Maginhawa is
yes.
so
more important.
it's super nice to meet you. Can I just say this is super cool? I'm talking with Budjette Tan right
Yeah,
now.
Hello,
but
Reg.
it's pronounced as budget. I've been saying budget.
Uh,
That's
I think you mentioned this at one point.
And we all
Okay,
forgot. It's the Neil Gaiman, Neil
Budjette
Gaiman.
Tan. Yeah, Budjette Tan. Yeah, I keep
that's fine. That's fine.
it's okay.
It
Well,
happens.
now our listeners know it's budget. It's is it
Budget,
budget or
budget.
budget?
Budget. Yes, it's budget.
Budget. Okay, so
There you
even
go.
our first impression wasn't correct because we said I think budget then.
Yeah, it's
So it's
unfortunate.
budget.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I had some questions prepared, but now I have to ask, what's the origin of your
We
name?
already went over this, but
Oh,
yeah, no, no, no.
you already
No,
went
no,
over.
no.
No, we actually didn't. No, we actually didn't. Go on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I only told Motsi that it was my parents who came up with the name. It's actually my dad who came up with the name, and it's your typical Pinoy way of combining the names of the parents. Because my dad is Buddy, my mom is Adjet, so it became Budget,
Wow.
and
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
a very
it's spelled with a J and a double T E. So because my mom's name is Adjet,
That's the thing.
yeah,
so
that is very Pinoy.
The name Buddy is very Pinoy, first of all.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I
Tito
do have
Buddy.
a
Everyone has a Tito Buddy.
Tito, oh nga, si Tito
that's
Buddy,
true. I
si
have a buddy.
I have an auntie tita, I have an uncle boy, mga ganun. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
Reg
used to
has the
have
next set
a
of questions. Oh,
yeah, I
sorry.
have the next set of questions. No, I was just gonna say like I used to have a classmate in Miriam. Her name was Chalice, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty name, like the drinking,
Yeah,
the thing you
Chalice.
drink out of. And she was like, no, it's my parents' names are Charlie and Alice. Oh.
Yes, yes.
That's so Pinoy.
Oh,
That's
okay.
true.
Well, it worked out.
It does. It does. People think it's something else, but it comes just boils down to your parents going, "You're going to be named after us." So
Both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, so I obviously I have to congratulate you on Trese getting picked up by Netflix. Obviously, that's huge. So I have to ask, what's life been like since all of that? Since Trese got picked up by Netflix?
um, it feels that's an interesting question. It feels a little more of the same, but at the same time, you can't help but feel anxious. Of at least I do. uh, of what is about to happen. And if you've seen, if you guys are hanging out in the Trese Facebook page, you can already see how the readers, especially the long-time readers, are anticipating and speculating and second guessing what's going to happen.
Galit
And
sila
it's
yung
just
person.
amazing how the little bit of detail that pops up, they suddenly figure out things on what it might be. So yeah, I mean, it's me and Kajo are trying our best to stay on course and finish the next book. And but at the same time, we don't, me and Kaja don't, regularly talk about this. So as far as I'm concerned, it's really more about how will the old time readers react to it, and of course, it's thinking about, I hope, or hoping that new viewers, people who've never ever heard of Trese, will find it interesting enough to pick up the book or check out the original source material.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Tress has already been big, like this huge award-winning series in the Philippines, and now Netflix is just giving it like this whole second life. So it's super exciting, and obviously, like it's gonna get more attention in other countries, in English-speaking countries. So, like, what are you hoping Western fans will pick up from the show?
Um, I hope they find, in the same way Western fans have, fallen in love with Greek mythology and Roman mythology, and we've seen how the West just has gone nuts over their favorite anime or manga, to the point that they've memorized all of the creatures and jargon, and the whatever new culture is portrayed in those anime. Um, whether it's about becoming a ninja, or whether it's about being one of the characters in Attack on Titan. They just embrace those characters so much. I hope they find a favorite. I hope they find a favorite character, and that, as I was telling Motzi earlier, that I hope that they find the few mythological characters that we're showing on the first season, that they find it intriguing enough that they just want to dive in. Yes, the tikbalang, as Motzi's pointing in the back. They find it intriguing
Of
enough
course.
that they want to learn more about it. Yes, there you go. Yes.
Just this is my role right now to distract people with like things I have like on hand.
We can't have a conversation with Budjette Tan without mentioning the tikbalangs, of course.
God, oh my gosh! Can I just quickly like interject something? Do you know what? Oh gosh, her Emiliana Campilan. Uh,
Yes.
Yeah,
um,
the with
Ed
the what do
Balagtas.
you call
Yeah,
this? The
With the bayong.
what,
yeah, with the
bayong. I
bayong
was
on her
like,
head. Yeah.
I forgot the word, but yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention like the first time I met her in a Comic Con, like I thought she didn't know me. I was like, wow, I'm such a big fan of your work, ganon ganon. And then she pointed to me and she's like, you're the one with the tikbalang boyfriends.
Yeah.
Tikbalang boyfriend comic, and I'm like,
It precedes you, Motsi.
perceived the correct way.
Your reputation precedes you.
Yeah. Oh my god. Anyway, sorry. Go on with your questions. I'm interrupting.
Nope, that's a good intermission. But speaking of, you mentioned that you're hoping Western fans will pick up like a favorite character. I was actually wondering what Filipino creature you're hoping they'll will gain interest or will be their like favorite creature.
I I I have no idea. I will. Um, yeah, I can't guess, and I don't want to spill. I mean,
That's true.
yeah, I
Yeah, we
think.
can't mention anything.
Yeah, I mean, you'll just never know. I think I don't know if they'll find the aswang would be. I hope they find the aswang would be interesting enough, or more something different or unique compared to your typical vampire. And then same with when they see the tikbalang or the chanak, for that matter. So that hopefully it will be portrayed in a way that they will see it as, and make them feel like, oh, I've never seen that before, I want to know more.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a question. I'm the strangest. I mean, even just talking about the comic book, it's we never know who becomes a favorite of the reader. Obviously, the Tikbalang is leading the pack as far as
My propaganda.
readers are concerned. But yes, so yeah, it's for me, it's up in the air on what people will suddenly find interesting, especially the new viewers.
When you mentioned favorite character, I was like, oh no, what if it's Basilio? That's their favorite character. What will you do, Budjette? What will you do?
It's many years ago I did a survey on who is your favorite Trese character,
Basilio.
and the Kambal
The kambal
The
are
kambal.
always obviously the
Yeah.
kambal.
Obviously.
more than
Oh
more
my
than
God.
Trese herself.
Like even I feel like the kambal were the surprise but not really surprise favorites.
Mhm.
Because
Exactly.
they were my favorites as well. Even before they revealed their
Uh-oh.
identity. Yeah, they like before their identities were revealed, they were my favorites.
By identities were
But-
revealed, you mean their faces were revealed and everyone
Yeah, their
fell in love
faces.
with
I
them.
mean, yeah,
And the whole backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all we need to thank Kajo for that.
Ooh.
And
for making them beautiful.
because yes,
No,
he
I'm
did.
actually okay with their backstory. Go on.
He made them terribly beautiful. Such beautiful creatures is what they are. Um, so the backstory there is that when I wrote the first issue of Trese, in that page where you see the Kambal appear for the first time and they shoot their way through the Aswang gang, essentially making a way for Trese to walk to the gang boss. I had written their origin story.
Oh,
So I
like
had
way early.
Yeah, that early I already explained. This is what they're all about. This is why they're wearing masks and what?
Sarah.
Hi.
Can we take a 2-minute break? I just need to get
Sure.
in Doritos.
No worries.
Oh, no
say hi to
worries.
Sarah for us.
I will. Hang on. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
See ya.
I'm here. Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. You
Ooh.
glitched for just a second. You just said,
Oh,
"We're
okay. So, oh my god, it's so scary. Wait, so we're keeping this pretty much spoilers free for Trese, right?
Yeah, spoiler. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
comics probably. I mean, major plot points. in later
Major
comics,
plot points. Yeah,
but
yeah.
early, like maybe the first one because it's free everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's like the first one's fine.
So we're treading on okay ground right now.
Yeah, and we can like take the time to explain like what Trese is, just like very quickly. Like Trese
okay.
is a comic.
Oh, have you
about
not?
supernatural?
you didn't do that early.
I'm sorry. I'm so excited.
Let's jump to other questions.
I just jumped. Yeah, I just rolled
Just
through
jumped
because
to
we
other
have a
questions.
fun thing at the end. But yeah, just a quick summary. Trese is a comic about a supernatural investigator / I like to call her like not even it's bad because she doesn't do crime, but she's almost like a crime lord in the Metro Manila area, but for supernatural. She's not a crime lord, but that's almost like the best. She's the head of a family that deals with supernatural issues in Metro Manila.
Yeah, regardless, she's girl boss.
Don't call her a girl boss. Don't do that. No, it's pretty much accurate. Yeah, that's how I would describe Trese. How would you describe Trese, Budjette?
That's a very good description, Motsi. You're probably one of the first people to mention that she is like a gang boss in Manila. That was partly inspired by the pulp hero The Shadow and the Green Hornet. So those the Shadow and the Green Hornet, they said even though they were crime fighters or they were mystery men, as they were described during that time, they were also they were not in effect they were fighting for dominance over with the other gang lords in the city. It just so happens they were doing it in such a way where they were fighting the bad guys. But they were viewed as almost like the other gang boss in the city. So that is part of the big inspiration for Trese, and that's why, and that's where that's her point of view whenever she says this is my city.
Yeah.
or you can't do this in my city, right? So that's the way she perceives herself.
It always intrigued me just because it sets her apart. Like, you have your John Constantine's, which is like the first thing people would think about. But then, like, unlike other investigators, she rules like an air, like
Yeah.
her own domain in some way. Like, she's the head of the family despite being the youngest sister of of five brothers. Like, it's that's always what's intrigued me, and that's kind of like it's a very fun like aspect of her, because she commands like respect, like almost unquestioningly. Like, everyone knows
Yeah.
to respect her. So that's always been the more intriguing side apart. Like, it's almost like an intro that she investigates supernatural events, but like more as you go deeper, she is investigating it because it's her domain. So that's always been
Yeah,
so
pretty
fascinating
much.
to me.
Yeah, that aspect of Tressa is also like my favorite part. I think it's because like it has the same appeal as Olivia Armstrong on Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh,
Love that.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like pretty much boss ladies of their own domain.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah,
nobody,
it's
that's not
absolutely,
questioned either. Like, it's
yeah.
not something that's like, oh, is it a girl who leads the film? It's never like questioned. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not like a major plot point like her gender.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Which is absolutely cool. When I first read Trese, well, the first one I read in high school, but I completed the series and I completed this. I really read through the series at the ones that were released at the time at like in college, and that was one of my favorite things about it. Just that like her authority is in question just because of her gender. Like it's just something you expect because at the time that's normally like a big plot point for a lot of stories.
Yeah, and it's
And
like it's the girl power stories, which I don't really
yeah, the girl power
like with
stories.
quote unquotes. So that was really refreshing. And yeah, sorry, like, let me just get back on track just quickly, just if you want to ask your last questions, Reg, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we will get into the fun bit like soon.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
hyping this up. It's probably not going to be that amazing, but it's a fun bit. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah, so with everything happening, and you're still working in your day job at Lego, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is amazing that you're balancing all of this
Ah,
and like with the
trying,
Netflix thing.
trying.
Balancing.
Yeah.
Balancing.
Yeah, with the Netflix thing as well. So like has Tressa being picked up by Netflix affected like um your average day in any way? Like what's an average day like nowadays? And how do you still find the time to squeeze in your art?
I think more than anything, it's having a 4-year-old kid that makes you.
Ah,
True.
That's where the balancing act starts to what do you call
that's
this,
true.
Unravel.
topple. So yeah, I mean, and moving here as well has been, even though we've been here 5 years already, it's still for me it still feels like we're getting used to things, finding a rhythm to things. But I think, yeah, I mean, and again, just as as my boy, he's turning 5 this year. So as he grows older, it just feels like there's a new thing you need to figure out how to, as far as like raising him is concerned. So it does feel like I don't get to write as much compared to my time in Manila. But that's one of the reasons why Kajo has now, we're trying out a new experiment. If you're following us on Facebook, we're uploading our new Trese story every week. So we're serializing it.
Wow.
We've uploaded so far, I think, 10 pages. So I've written it Marvel style, so meaning I've just written general descriptions of what happens in the scene, and then I sent it to Kajo, and now he's drawing it and breaking it down into pages. We're uploading work in progress work, so it's like initial ink stages, which I'm sure he will much later on refine and put in more details. But yeah, this is also a way for us to just keep the momentum going. We have been busy. The other thing that has kept us busy past couple of months or year or the past year is the Trese got picked up by Ablaze, by the US
Yeah.
publisher Ablaze.
Yeah, the US publisher. So it's
So
gonna be
and Trese and Kajo, which is I
Trese.
said
They have the same hairline, I think you mentioned.
Kajo, as you know, decided to redraw the first book.
Yeah.
And the other thing that our publisher said is that the book one needed to be at a certain page count. So it needed to be 136 pages, and the original version was like only like 100 pages. So Kajo needed to add more pages per case.
Oh man.
that's so exciting.
So when he did that, I had to add more dialogue to those additional pages. And the other thing we did for the US edition, just again to bump up the page count, that's where we added the journal entries from the grandfather, from Lolo Trese. So it's also thinking that, I mean, even though it's so easy to Google, you know, if it's your first time to read Trese and you're not from the Philippines, sure, you can Google Manananggal, Tikbalang, Tiyanak. It's easy to do that, but you know, just to also help out those readers and to make the universe, I don't know, richer and deeper. What we did was at the end of each story, instead of a glossary of terms, which is what some books would do, right? They would just have, you know, just a brief description, a one sentence, you know, description of what is a multo, what is a nuno, what is a whatever. So what I did was, I wrote what is supposedly Lolo Trese's first encounters with these creatures. So in effect, I describe what is the typical description for a nuno, and then I describe it based on what is seen in the Trese universe.
Wow.
That's so exciting.
Parang it reminds me of Grimm or like Gravity Falls, almost like ganon. And it's so funny because like I haven't even gotten my own copy, but I sent one to my sister in London. So parang damn it, I should have gotten my own copy too.
That's so exciting. Okay, so I have one last question,
and then we can go to the fun bit.
Yeah, I have one last question, and it's so how involved are you with the production of the Netflix show?
No.
Okay, because I was gonna segue that into the more important part of the question is, will you be meeting the celebrity voice actors?
We hope so. We're not, me and Kanjo are not, we're not involved in the day-to-day of the production. The moment Jay Oliva stepped on board as our showrunner and executive producer, he was, the captain of the ship. Along with Tanya Yuson and Shanti Harmain. And Tanya and Shanti are the two people who should really get the recognition for making all of this possible. They were the ones who were pitching Trese for 10 years.
Wow.
So, Trese, if we can only name names, in those 10 years, Tanya would tell me, oh, Trese is now in the hands of this producer or this director, and every time I just want to scream out loud and say, oh my God, he's reading this or she's reading this, and things won't, the deals never push through for whatever reason. But yeah, Tanya has been working hand in hand with Jay. Kajo got to spend a day with Jay Oliva and his team.
Nice.
Because Jay and his art director spent 2 weeks in Manila. Back in 2019.
To research and everything.
To do the research, to visit the actual places that are in the book.
That's amazing.
And then Kajo flew in from Davao and they talked about character designs and creature designs.
That's awesome.
I got to join them for a call before they started writing the scripts. I met them through a Zoom call. So I met Jay and the writing team, and the writing team is all Pinoy.
Oh wow, that's
So,
So
really
good.
really cool.
So good.
so I'm sure, and again, I'm sure Netflix will talk more about it, or the PR team of Netflix will reveal who these writers are. But so there, so I got, similar to what we're doing now. It was really a very casual conversation in terms of, who is Trese, what makes her tick, what is the thinking behind this character and that character, and that was it. And after we had that, that half a day, and Kajo with his full day with them, that was it. And they were, they were in charge, and they took care of everything.
That's so exciting.
So yeah,
Nice.
even the casting decisions are all made by them. So yes,
Yeah, we have some big names.
we hope to meet Shay and Liza sometime soon.
Yes.
Sadly, we cannot do a red carpet premiere now. But so there. So and yes, and they haven't announced the rest of the cast yet. So I think that's
Yeah.
Very
that's really
exciting.
exciting.
I think everyone's gonna want to know who's
The kambal.
voicing the Kambal.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, I just looked up Tanya Yuson, and like the biggest thing she's known for as a producer is Hannah Montana the movie, which makes me very excited. No, but
Wow.
okay, but
Yeah.
in all seriousness, I'm very excited, and I'm so glad she worked
just
so
for
hard on this.
and just for our listeners, Jay Oliva, his most
Yes.
notable
Oh my
works are
gosh.
Legend of Korra, Wonder Woman, and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And the announced cast so far is Liza Soberano, who she's a big Filipino celebrity known for movies such as Forevermore, Dolce Amore, and Alone Together. And she'll be voicing Trese on the Filipino language version, I believe.
Mhm.
And Shay Mitchell will be voicing the English language version of Trese, and you might know her from Pretty Little Liars.
Which is
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
also, yeah, it's super awesome. And I don't know if you mentioned, Kajo is the artist.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just bringing this
Yes.
out, like we just assume
Just
you know
bringing-
everything.
Yeah, we're just gonna assume the audience knows everything. But yeah, those are my questions. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
I
It's
really
super,
appreciate
super
that.
exciting.
Yes, and now we finally get to I keep saying the fun part. It's literally just so the fun
It's
part.
a free for all.
free for all. So
Okay.
what I'm going to bring up here is this is the last question, which is what question do you want us to ask you, or what question do you want to ask us? So this is a free for all. Anything you want to talk about, or just anything at all. Like, what do you want to talk about in the last bit of this call?
Oh, I guess. Well, then a
Right.
question to you guys is what. It always. I mean, when me and Kajo started Trese, it was really a very personal project. It was us wanting to just do something for ourselves. In a way, it was a very selfish project. We came from. I mean, we're still in advertising, and being in advertising means you need to seek approval for your work and for your ideas.
Mhm.
It needs to be approved by your partner, then your boss needs to approve it, then your client needs to approve it, and then the audience needs to approve it, right?
Yeah.
So making Trese was really something that let's have fun. Nobody needs to approve this except us. Even our working style was like that. It was, I will write the story and I give it to Kajo, and Kajo will draw it, no questions asked. And then, but Kajo will suddenly change certain details. But then I get it back. I get back the art, and more often than not, I don't ask for any big changes. Maybe I'll ask, make sure they see the knife in this panel, or things like that. And so yeah, so it is in effect like the stress-free work. It's not the kind of work that gets nitpicked to death, because that's what happens when we do the work, right?
Yeah.
So when we do stuff, we do it because we enjoy it. We have fun with. Oh, it'll be so cool if we could tell this story and do it this way. So after that very long preamble, my question to you guys is what makes and you kind of talked about it, but yeah, what makes why do you like Trese? What is it about Trese that you find fun to read, and is there a specific story that you really like? And if you needed to like recommend Trese to one of your friends, and you could only make them read one story, what would it be?
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
which
Ooh, that's a good question.
story?
But yeah, honestly, we talked about the main like already the main appeal of Tressa for me is that the protagonist is just this really cool badass girl, and I just love the absolute concept of it. It's John Constantine, but with a mafia, but not mafia, but more kind of like that, same
Kind
vibes,
of mafia.
mafia, kind of mafia boss leader, and like protecting the city while doing investigations. And she's just like this widely respected figure in her community.
Hmm. For me, I mean, yeah, I've talked about it a little bit. It's just, first of all, like Philippine mythology, like Trese and titles like Sky World and Mythology Class have really gotten me. It's the urban mythology is
Yes.
so interesting. You're like kind of bringing in like the daily life of someone who lives in the city in the Philippines, and then you kind of bring in the stories that we were told, and I that really appealed to me for a long time, and also I mean still until now, like that's kind of, I will say like openly that Tresa is one of the inspirations for Hainai, which like it's another thing, it's another urban mythology type deal, except it's set here in Toronto, but with like a
Yeah.
Filipino, like she's a babaylan, she's like a with her background. So
Yeah.
that's been really fun to build on. And yeah, I think also like not just in Trese, but just in general, like it's a silly thing to think about, but at the same time, it's like the way you approach gender has been very interesting, not just in Trese, but also in, for
Mhm.
example, the what was it called? The one with the not Darna. The not Darna. What do you call,
Yes.
what was that called? What was the name of that
um,
story?
Secret Constellation.
Yeah, Secret Constellation.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that was just really like, it was beautiful but sad. Like there was this character, this the ding in the story. I've forgotten like if you replaced their names or not, but I do remember like the just yeah, you have like he's still, it's fantastic. It's also like a trip, like it's Kajo's like style that makes it work
Yeah.
as well. Like almost like a dark Darna. Like he
Yeah.
represents like a dark Darna because of like his anger. And I found that really like in terms of like just how it pertains to gender, it's just yeah, like it's not unusual, it's not strange. Like it's almost like any more than any of the other supernatural strangeness is that he is the new Darna, even if the outfit doesn't change. Like the outfit didn't change either. It's literally just
No.
styled a certain way. That was
Yeah.
like, but I really enjoy that, and I really enjoy like how like you coming from comics that also like you mentioned before, like Warren Ellis and those types of comic book creators are big inspirations for you, and I also admire Warren Ellis for that as well. It's kind of like it's a very interesting way to look at certain characters in a framework that is not too traditional,
Yeah.
like from a political perspective, from a gender perspective, from like you can talk about it all day, kind of like really dive into what makes it interesting from that perspective. But I really do enjoy that, and I know it's not gonna be my first pitch to people. It's not gonna be like, oh, you see, like the gender norms are challenged because this and that. But it is like it is something that appeals to me on a deeper level, how very casually you've just kind of sloughed off a lot of very much like a lot of like kind of almost misogynistic like comic
Mm.
ideas of the same era, like that you probably grew up in. And also I did want to bring up something like not kind of related to the story, but also not. I just wanted to ask this of you, or like mention it. It's not really a full question, but I remember at one point you did mention that one of your inspirations was old radio shows. Yeah, like, and my parent, like, so that was interesting because when we started Hainai, my parents were
Yeah.
my parents and my relatives, who I did not expect would be super into it, were super into it. And then they started
Yeah.
saying like they started mention my mom started mentioning names of shows that I'd never heard of, but were like really popular back in the day, like all old radio shows. And it's kind of like it reminded me that my first source of Philippine mythology was my mother, because
Yeah.
my mother tells me all
Yeah.
like told me all these stories. She was the one who told us that the Nuno got us. Like her and my dad were both very much like the Nuno like cursed you when you were a child, and that's why your brother got sick. And that's he. These are like
Yep.
stories. I was gonna, and I'm also gonna tell the story. Like, there's gonna be in a couple of days. I'm gonna be interviewing with. I don't know if you know her, Sapphire Sandalo. So
Familiar.
I think you'd like really like her stuff. She's a Filipino American, but she has a podcast and a YouTube show where she animates like horror stories.
Okay.
And she's focusing a lot on
Oh, I
Filipino
didn't.
horror stories.
Oh,
Um
okay. Oh,
and
it's that
she
one. Okay, I didn't know she was Filipino American.
Yeah, and she's, I think, like, if you check out her stuff, she's very interested in this. And yeah, like, we just befriended each other on Twitter recently. And yeah, it's just like I don't know what my point was. I'm just saying like, yeah, the like it kind of comes full circle, because you were inspired by old radio shows. I was inspired by you. We're making a podcast, which is a new radio show. My parents are like, wow, it's a radio show again. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about podcasts now is that it does kind of go back to what was already being done in Philippine radio way back.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I actually cannot remember specific episodes, but definitely Gabi ng Lagim is one of those things that is, if I didn't hear it, it most probably, a relative or a friend would have said, "Oh, this is I heard this story last night." So it was something fantastic as far as pre-internet days. That was how, and since I don't know, maybe Gabi ng Lagim also went on air when the TV stations went off air, because that was
Yes.
the time when TV stations went off air, signed off at like what 10 in the evening, right? So what
Mhm.
else do you do
Yeah.
after 10? Or after 12 midnight. So you tune into the
Absolutely.
radio. So therefore, a lot of our storytelling got honed by listening to radio. It's a very oral. Um, Even the other big influence as far as Trese is concerned was audiobooks.
Oh yeah.
So back in the 90s, in the 80s, we were able to get cassette tapes of Stephen King. So the Stephen King has an anthology called Nightmares and Dreamscapes,
Yeah.
and each story was narrated by a different celebrity. So Tim Curry. The ones I remember the most is Tim Curry narrating a story about. It was set in London, and it was about a police station that always had to deal with Lovecraftian horror creatures.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like
uh,
something
It's
people would be interested in now.
right.
exactly.
Exactly.
So, and we would listen to these stories while stuck in traffic. Driving around Manila. That's
Best
what we
time to
that's what we
listen.
pop in the radio. I mean, in our cassette player in the car. So yeah, and there was a way that these stories were told that just made it so. I don't know. It just opened up your mind on like what could be.
Yeah,
So it was a question of like, why can't we tell these stories set in Manila?
exactly.
Rather
Yeah.
than setting it again in New York or setting it again in
London.
and having like what all white
Toronto.
Hey, listen. Okay. But
but again I think the thinking that Motsi is
Peace.
doing now is then she puts in the Pinoy ingredient
yeah, I'm
into
just like,
the
hello.
Yeah.
I've not
so
explored Toronto, but I'm writing about it. That's not a good idea. But no, I have a little bit. But just before we
Yeah.
get off the radio show topic, have you ever heard of? Because my mom mentioned these, tang tang tarang tang is the first one she mentioned, which is like apparently Bisaya or in the Cebu area, because my mom comes from Butuan, and the other is ang anay ng bakya.
Ang anay ng bakya. Okay.
Yeah, which is a weird, like, yeah, I mean, like, literally it's very strange, but like that's apparently what it's called. No, no, anay nga nagabakya. That's wrong. Anay nga nagabakya. So that's probably Bisaya because I completely messed
Yeah,
that
because
up.
we
Anay nga.
Tang 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 is something my parents would I would hear that from my parents.
Tang,
Or when
tang,
my
tang, tang.
uncles would tell a joke, they would say, "Oh, they saw it or heard it from tang tarang tang tang."
That's crazy. Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Those
know.
are
yeah,
older
that's
radio
crazy.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I really what?
no, go on, go on.
Yeah. Zoom. I really loved how you described basically how you started Trese with Kajo, and how it was really just like something you wanted to do selfishly, like just for fun. And because that's absolutely how Moxie and I started. And
Best way to start a project.
Exactly.
yeah, like we didn't really do this to gain. Oh, hi.
Oops, hang on. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be back and we can wrap up.
No worries.
Okay,
Yes.
we can wrap up.
Seraph break. Seraph break.
Question.
We're deciding how do we end this pod. No, it's fine. I mean, like, yeah. So yeah, it's been really wonderful to talk to you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I have
just
not
wanted
seen you
to-
since since Comic-Con, which I miss. I miss all the Comic-Cons. I miss all the Comic-Cets, and I don't know. It's been nice just to like keep up with you on social media and stuff. And yeah, like Reg, do you have any last things to say as well?
Yeah, sorry, I cut off Reg.
Oh, it's okay.
Reg.
No, serif breaks are always valid.
Yes, say hi to Sarah.
They're always good. Yeah. And they give some much needed adorableness.
Yes, that's why I'm wondering if I can still. Right now, I'm exposed to a whole lot of Paw Patrol. and
Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's still Paw Patrol.
It's still around, and so yeah, I'm. That's why it does feel like a struggle to try and go back to writing horror.
After Paw
When
Patrol.
all I watch now are all these
Speaking of
Yeah.
Paw
shows
Patrol.
and toy
Speaking of
unboxing
Paw
videos.
Patrol.
Yeah, speaking of Paw Patrol, no, I was working for the company that does Paw Patrol for like a little bit, and then I got
Oh.
fired. So at the beginning of the pandemic, so I'm like,
Okay.
well, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anyway,
I was thinking,
continue from from what we were talking about. No, I just wanted to mention like it's great because first of all, that's how Motzi and I started our podcast, like
Yeah.
the whole not needing anyone's approval, and a lot of that is because of the creative freedom podcasts allow you. And I think there's so much, it's so great nowadays that there's so many platforms for more creatives to get on independently and just tell their stories.
Mhm.
And obviously, and that ultimately will open up to more Filipino creators as well. And who knows, maybe we'll be seeing like a whole new generation of Filipino horror writers or Filipino comics writers.
Mhm.
And you just know like 2/3 of them will cite you as their influence, if not all.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's very true. I think like you are definitely a big influence on a lot of like the new generation, which I think is something that I hope you know, because like I mean I'm sure you know, but I hope you like remember that, because your what do you call it? Your ripples, like the ripples, like
Absolutely.
you have created in the world are massive. I have a bunch of Filipino comics in my shelf that could probably be attributed to like the work you did. Like, so yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And also just before you go, this is like the last I'm gonna make you try remembering things again, but just before you go, what would you like? Obviously, read Trese, everyone. Read Trese. It's awesome. Like, get Trese, buy Trese. It's gonna be the biggest thing. Netflix anime are the biggest thing right now, and you know Trese is gonna be big because everyone's excited for it. So buy Trese,
and
read Trese.
Yeah, and like Liza Soberano is gonna be a voice.
Like-
I'm sorry, I just really love her.
Yep.
And yeah, oh sorry, go on.
No, sorry, what was you going to do?
I just wanted to say, like at the end, like what other titles do you want people to read or check out or listen to or everything? Just like off the top of your head, the quickest thing that comes to your mind.
I think
Interesting.
anything from I think Pen. We're now on Pen Lab,
Pen Lab.
which was put together by Bernie and his friends, and I think it's great. Another product of the pandemic, another product of the lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
of just wanting to finding a platform for all of these stories to be in. And aside from Pen Lab, I think there's another group called Comic Spot, and another one called
Oh.
Web Comic, or and I'm forgetting it. I might be remembering it wrong. But yeah, I mean, I think Pen Lab is a great place to start. I think taking a quick look at what is on Pen Lab is a great showcase of Filipino creativity that we're not. It's so refreshing and encouraging to see that we are not locked into that. It's not all superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all horror. You could see such a great variety of storytellers in Pen Lab alone. And it's great to know that what do you call this? Comiket, of course, through their store Secret HQ, is also. I mean, for your listeners in the Philippines, then it's a place where they can take a look at what are the new titles, especially if you've seen it on Pen Lab. You want to get the book. Some of the titles are available through Secret HQ,
That's true.
and I think one of the good side effects of the lockdown is people have discovered that they can buy books and comic books online.
Yes.
Yes.
That comic book stores and bookstores and even independent creators have found ways to just accelerate that service to readers. So I mean, as far as Pinoy comics are concerned, I think that's the side effect that happened. That during lockdown, it just made us want to find ways to reach more readers.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it continues, and I hope things will get better, especially for everyone in the country, and that this somehow continues. That there is you might not like horror, you might not like fantasy stories, but there will be a comic book story for you out there.
Very true.
And I think that's what is good now, as far as even before 2020, when you visit a Comic Con or a Comiket, you were already seeing a variety of titles. So most definitely, and now you have guys like Tarantadong Kalbo.
Tarantadong Kalbo!
Yeah.
Love
His
it.
web comics. Oh my gosh, his latest comic though. His latest comics. They're so
Mhm.
political.
I mean, they
Exactly.
always
They, I
have.
mean, they all. I mean, but they've been extra heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, exactly. But I can see him now going back to dipping out of his political comic strips. But I guess it's really what he's feeling at the time, and I think that's something that other creators should just lean on. What are you feeling? What excites you, or what angers you? Or whether it's exciting you or angering you or irritating you by putting that on the page, then that's your way of just expressing it and sharing it with the world.
Mhm.
And like with you guys, it comes out as a podcast. It just so happens it comes out as a podcast, but yeah, I think those would be the site, the websites, and the Facebook pages, for people to take a look at, just to see that as far as comic book creation is concerned, it's alive and it's thriving, and it's ever changing as far as Pinoy comics are concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just to add to that before we kind of end our session, is that yeah, like I remember being in Comiket and Comic Con and seeing long, enormous lines for comics I personally wasn't interested in, but like that was so lovely for me. Like it was wonderful to see, and then there would be like smaller comics where I was really gripped by their story. And I think that's like that is what Comic Con, Comiket, and now like all of the online online sites like PenLab have done. It is like you can look at one that is a slice of life. You can look at one that is that is a very like happy go lucky teenage queer comic, or you can look
Yeah.
at one that is like a really badass sci-fi, or like, you know, all of that, like, and
Yeah.
like you can look at horror, you can look at stuff that's very hard hitting, and you can look at stuff that's very lighthearted. It's like, and you see all of that come together because they're all Filipino stories. And I think that's like what's so appealing about, especially now with Filipinos who are Filipinos, you know, social media capital of of the world, the
Yes.
Philippines. And for good or for ill, that means a lot of Filipinos online have found a way to kind of stretch out and hand these stories to people who have been waiting for them or looking for them. And you know, and I know, being in another country, it's like it's also fascinating to see how many Filipinos in the diaspora are begging for these stories. I've had so many
Yeah.
people ask me, just because I came to Canada so recently,
Yeah.
like, what should I check out? And I've literally made a document of like stuff to check out. Like,
Okay.
yeah, check out this. Like, one of them was Balik Batik. I don't know if you know Balik Batik. Do you know? Oh my gosh. You should get gifts from the.
We know what to get you for Christmas now.
Yeah. So Balik Batik, on a kind of unrelated but related note, they do Filipino textile work. And what they do
Okay.
is they commission actual like mga people from the indigenous groups who are like traditional textile workers. And what they do
Yeah.
is, instead of like forcing them to do mass production, they do unique single like pieces, and they sell them for high premiums to make sure that it's like they're well
Wow.
paid. And the thing I'm
Yeah.
wearing right now is a balik batik piece, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, like you should. I'll link you all the stuff that you need to see. Whatever. It's
Yes.
and yeah, like, just okay. So like we'll end this session now. Just to be like, do you have any? Because you're
Last
busy with your
words?
child, and
Yeah.
like last. Don't say yeah, but do you have any?
Oh.
I'm crashing through the
Not
door
last
again.
words. Yeah, any last things you want to say?
Anything you want to say? To the
Anything you want to
listeners?
plug? Any
Thanks again, Motsi and Reg, for inviting me, and it's always great to just share our story and to be able to share something Pinoy with the rest of the world.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, if to listeners out there who have not picked up Trese, the first issue is available on PenLab. You can read it for free, just to give you a taste of what Trese is all about, and it is the case of the White Lady on Budjette Drive. And we are available almost globally through Ablaze, which published the U.S. edition, or was published in the U.S., but it's now distributed. We've seen that it's now in friends from Australia have found it. Of course, friends from Canada.
London, for sure.
Interesting places where it suddenly popped up is like Germany, Spain. But yes, anywhere there's and yes, I did find one comic book store here in Denmark who had it. So I bought.
Awesome.
So I think they only
Exciting.
ordered maybe 2 issues, so I bought the last issue just so I can say we're sold out in Denmark.
You are though.
Yeah,
You are.
It's not a lie, it's so there. Trese is available, or through in the Philippines. It's available through what do you call this? Through Avenida. And then I hope I can give you the links, and I hope you can share it. There is one more thing. I suddenly looked over at my shelf. If I can talk about it for a little bit.
Yes.
So a year ago, I co-edited this book called Sound.
Wow.
Wow, we're
And
looking at the
it-
cover right now, and it's
Yeah.
lovely.
So
Mhm.
this Sound is published by a Singaporean company called Difference Engine. And they got me and Karis Lok, who is a Malaysian artist, to be the editors of this anthology. And the topic that we gave people was write any story about sound. And the interesting thing is that we ended up with stories from the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. Where else? What else am I missing? Generally, we got entries from Southeast Asian countries. We got over 100 entries, but obviously had to cut it down to something that would fit in a book, and we ended up with 13 stories. And for me, it was such an eye opener as far as talent and stories are concerned. It was great to see stories that were uniquely from that country, but at the same time, reading it as a Filipino, it made me think, oh, they're going through the same thing we're going through. And in fact, if you look at it, the cover is a sari-sari store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when Caris drew this, she wasn't thinking of a sari-sari store. She was thinking of the typical corner store in her town, in her city. And it just goes to show that we have so much in common with our neighbors in Southeast Asia. But we cannot name who are the best comic book artists from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Singapore. Maybe we can name one or two, but we can definitely name a manga artist and an American artist and a European artist, right? So for me, this is a great first project to be part of. So far it's available only in the Singaporean site, so it means anyone ordering outside of Singapore needs to pay a hefty shipping fee. But I don't know, I'm hoping it gets bigger distribution, because it's also a great mix of Philippine, and I'll just quickly show you one of the stories we picked was actually from Paolo Chiquiamco.
Oh, hey!
Myth Space.
Yeah, I have Myth Space on my shelf right now.
We ended up writing about a place where all of the mythical beings gather to sing karaoke.
I love that.
That's so cute.
That's so fun.
So, and again, it's so typical of the Pinoys, right?
It's so Pinoy. I was gonna say it's so Pinoy.
It's you just bring out the microphone and the Pinoys suddenly appear, right? Or in this case, all of the Capre and Encanto suddenly appear.
I love that.
But this is just one of those. I hope, connecting back to what we were talking about earlier. I hope that people will seek out books like this after they see Trese or after they read Trese, that they get intrigued enough that they'd want to learn more about, not just Pinoy culture in general, but to actually see, that there is this entire, these fantastic universes over in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely get all the links for everything that we mentioned today, so that we can show it to our listeners and readers, listeners. It's I always forget everything. But yeah, thank you so
that's
much.
All the time we have today.
I can talk to you for hours and hours, obviously, but
Absolutely.
but you're busy and we are Reg is busy.
You have a child.
I'm not. I'm just here, just vibing. But yeah, it's been wonderful, and I hope happy post Easter, because that's when we're recording this. I saw that Sarah had a lot of fun, so that's great.
Yeah.
And I hope you continue.
He was the real star.
He was the real star. We just care about Sarah. Who are you? But yeah, thank you so much, Budjette. And I would love, I don't know, for whatever reason, to talk again. It would be lovely just to talk at length about this stuff that we all clearly love quite a lot. And I wish you all the luck, especially, but it'll be hard, because after Trese comes out, you'll be a star A celebrity. We can't get to you anymore. It's an
No, no.
unattainable celebrity.
Let's have a
Please
post.
remember us in your speech.
Yeah.
Speech.
We should have a post viewing party chat after the show.
Yeah, we'll get
Yes.
Rebecca. We have to get Rebecca in there. Rebecca, well, Rebecca has to be in there.
Yes,
We'll get like
yes,
key
yes.
players in the Trese group to be everyone actually.
Yes, that would be fun.
That would be awesome. All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank
Have a
you.
great rest of the day in Denmark, and thank you to our listeners who
Yeah.
are listening, and goodbye, Mr.
Thank you.
Budjette. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
It was really great meeting you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Super
Bye-bye.
cool. Bye.
Bye bye. Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
Budjette Tan. That was awesome. We got to do 1.5 hours actually, more than
Yeah,
like.
thank you, Zoom.
Thank
for-
you, Zoom, for giving us. This is not an endorsement. No, not an endorsement.
But thank you for not working the way we thought you would work.
Yeah, I know, right? So just for listeners who are curious, the video for this session will go up on Patreon as one of our special features. But
Patreon and coffee for certain supporters.
Yeah, for supporters. And yeah, this is part of our special, like you'll be hearing this obviously, like we'll have announced this beforehand, but this is part of our special features for our hiatus. So definitely check definitely we have other special features that are also like for patrons, as well as like stuff that'll be available to everybody. So
To
yeah,
everyone publicly.
So yeah, we appreciate all the support. I hope you had a good time listening to this. Hope you check out all of the really cool titles that we mentioned. This is really just a bunch of comic book nerds in the Philippines, or like it's a bunch of Filipino nerds who are just like, I like look at this comic that I have that you don't.
Yeah, this is gonna be. Obviously, this will be edited for Spotify, but I'm very excited for our patrons to see how chaotic the actual interview.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was like,
was.
there was a bit that you didn't see.
It's less than that and more the tikbalangs.
Yeah, the tikbalangs, all the tikbalangs. But so I was just like showing him Sagala.
I wasn't here for the comic book.
Yeah, I was just showing him
Showing
Sagala,
off.
and he was like, you have a copy of Sagala? Oh my gosh, I wish I had a copy of Sagala. And I showed him the interior art.
That was
and
me.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, because my best friend sent it to me. So I'm, like.
I made sure to read it first.
Yeah, it's like, Mama, meron ako. I have something you don't. No, but in all seriousness.
Yeah, this was a very
great.
lovely interview.
Yeah, and we will say
among geeks.
among geeks. Yeah, and we will officially say goodbye to everybody.
Yes.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.